Raise your hand if you've been duped by a bad AI recipe online. Hi Chefeteers, I'm Chef Nakia, and today I am going to roast an AI generated recipe, show you some of the things to look for so that you don't waste any of your time and energy cooking a meal that is never gonna taste good. It is the summer of 2025. We have all been looking at bad AI slop for years at this point. And some of it is very, very obviously fake. Incredibly easy to see that AI mushed it together. Sometimes we have to take an extra second or two to look at like an AI photo before we can see that it is fake. And if you're looking at a recipe, what is that extra second or two equivalent to figuring out, okay, this recipe was not written by somebody who ever actually made this meal. This was written by a clever algorithm, robot, whatever you want to call it. And the likelihood of actually being able to cook a delicious meal from this recipe is extremely low. Of course, it would be terrible to waste the time and the money on the ingredients to cook something that does not taste good. But what, in my opinion, is especially dangerous from this is what if they do not give you appropriate cooking times or any quantitative or qualitative things to look out for to ensure that your meat is cooked to a temperature that is safe to eat, or that you are, preparing food in a way that isn't going to eventually make you sick. Of course, those are the biggest negatives to you, the consumer. I think it's also pretty crappy for people who have put a lot of time and effort into developing their recipes. And yes, that is me. I put a lot of time into developing my recipes. There are ones on my site that I've cooked dozens of times, and I'll go in and be able to add extra little notes or suggestions or change around some of the meal prep instructions so that they're a little bit quicker for you guys. Like, I love and care about making these recipes as user-friendly as possible. And I suppose for my specific situation, the fact that I deliver the ingredients to my clients' homes who live in the Denver area does set me apart. I can't quite do that yet. And then even for my clients who live other places, I come up with personalized meal plans for them that will fit, their family. And we've gotten to know each other pretty well over the years. And so I can recommend things to them in a way that a robot cannot. So at least I have that. But it's still overall, for the overall online recipe curation, we'll say, industry, AI's introduction of mass quantities of low quality art affects us similarly to every other artist out there who is struggling right now with how to navigate AI coming on the scene and people with poor intentions being able to mass produce low quality slop. So here's some tips for how you can keep an eye out for AI written recipes posted on blogs or sites that are really only there to get you to click through to the ads. Their purpose is not to actually share a useful recipe to you. It says the perfect no-bake dessert. The site here, it looks like Homesmad, maybe? Homesmad? Who knows how they want you to say that. So the recipe name already, Strawberry Cheesecake Bites, the perfect no-bake dessert. Anytime I see cheesecake or something that is traditionally made with eggs, and then no-bake next to it, I do get a little bit suspicious. There are plenty of no-bake versions of cheesecake, which really is similar to making like a cream cheese frosting. But the popularity, the clickbaitiness of no-bake dessert always makes me a little bit suspicious. Of course, as you can see, there are a lot of ads throughout this blog, not necessarily immediately unique to AI blogs. Read through the text here, and I'm not even gonna point out, everything in these paragraphs, because let's be real, most people don't read the paragraphs of the recipes anyway, right? You go to a blog and you just scroll down to the bottom to try to find the recipe. But if you do take the time to read through this text, it doesn't sound, there's no real writing voice behind it. It doesn't really sound like a person. I think we've all seen enough AI text at this point to know what doesn't sound real. The picture of these cheesecake bites that we are arriving at. So this picture to me screams fried. That looks like a little fried nugget. And the description did say no bake. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it is a no bake dessert, but it is, yes, a fried dessert. So I was like, okay, we'll keep looking. But this picture is, that strawberry sauce. It's a little bit too perfect, those squiggly lines. And then just if you look at the mechanics of this dessert, so it's a breaded fried ball with white cheesecake center with even a little injection of strawberry sauce in the middle, presumably. And then this strawberry on top that is so perfectly round, and even though it seems kind of like a high definition photo, you don't actually see any seeds in the cut through or bit through part of it. All of this could just be some unique photographing and editing choices. So we'll keep scrolling down. Alrighty, we have listed out the ingredients for the crust, for the cheesecake filling, for the strawberry topping. Here in the cheesecake filling, you can see that there are eggs included. So there's the cooking step. How is that going to make these eggs safe to eat? We have the ingredients, and then preparing the graham cracker crust, making the cheesecake filling, assembling, and baking the cheesecake bites. One of the headers of the instructions is baking the cheesecake bites, and it's a no-bake dessert. And a person could have made this mistake too, just been disingenuous in how they, chose to write this. But the amount of times that baking is used in these descriptions, I don't know. It just feels like a real person wouldn't necessarily do that. And don't waste your time, because I'm gonna waste my time, and I'm going to show you in making this recipe. Here is what it would actually look like. I'm going to do the best I can to follow the steps perfectly and not make any changes. Make it very similar to what the page says. Okay, so I'm making the no-bake strawberry cheesecake bites from this AI Slop recipe. The graham cracker crumbs is something that is called out in the recipe. You're probably not going to be able to find graham cracker crumbs in the grocery store, so I crumbled mine in a food processor. This recipe says nothing about that. They just say use graham cracker crumbs. They don't really walk you through how to get there. So I just wanted to add that little piece right off of the bat. Now the first step is to preheat the oven to 350, mix together our crust ingredients. I'm gonna melt some butter into the graham cracker crumbs and sugar, and then put it in our 24 mini muffin tin thingy. So here we go. Now, I believe in this recipe it says nothing about greasing the tin. So We're not gonna grease it or anything. We're just gonna, great, we're just gonna leave them. They don't tell you how much crust to put in. It does say in the graham cracker crust to press the graham cracker mixture firmly into the bottom of a 24-cup mini muffin tin. You can use a small measuring cup or the bottom of the glass to help you press the crumbs evenly. Those are the types of instructions that you would give if you were making like a 9-inch cheesecake pan. All right, so it doesn't make sense. All right, there we have our crust tamped down into our little mini muffin tin. The oven is almost preheated, though not quite. It says to bake this for 5 to 7 minutes or until lightly golden brown. There is a fair amount of leftover crumbs. We'll get started on mixing up our cheesecake batter. It just says in a large bowl, beat softened cream cheese and sugar until smooth and creamy. Add eggs one at a time. Beating well after each addition, stir in vanilla extract and sour cream. If you have a KitchenAid mixer, stand mixer like this, use the paddle attachment, not the whisk. You might break your whisk if you try beating cream cheese with the whisk. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can use like a handheld electric egg beater. And if you don't have either of those, then you're gonna be using a lot of elbow grease and the stiffest spoon that you have to beat all of the lumps out of the cream cheese. And this is showing how you get the graham cracker mixture on the bottom. It doesn't say anything about pressing the crumbs along the side of the tin. It only says the bottom. And in the photo, those crumbs are covering all except the very top circular part of it. So this is not going to create the type of product that you're seeing a photo for. See, this is the problem with trusting AI or non-credible recipe writers even to give you recipes on the internet. Is if a recipe hasn't been fully vetted and tested, then you may be here in this situation with a lot of ingredients, the money spent on all these ingredients, dirty dishes in your kitchen, and this feeling of, I don't know if these are gonna turn out okay. What if you were going to a potluck type event this evening and you feel like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work out, I guess I'm just gonna have to run into the grocery store and grab whatever the first thing that I can find is, which feels really disappointing and kind of embarrassing. If this recipe had been fully tested, then there would be pretty specific amounts associated with how much graham crumb to put in to each divot, each muffin tin depression, and how much to tamp it down. You would then not be questioning quite so much, okay, how much cheesecake batter do I put in each little muffin tin depression, because you would have a clear and accurate and specific amount for that. And I don't really mind. I like kind of just doing whatever I want to do anyway. But for some people, just going with the flow and being like, that looks right to me, it doesn't come second nature. And that's why you're looking up recipes on the internet, right? And why you're not just winging it and making it however you want to. It's because you want to trust who you're getting the information from, so that if it's 4:45 on Thursday evening and you want to get to a friend's house by 7, you know you're gonna have a delicious dessert to take and not like, ooh, a failed experiment because someone decided to just throw up some AI slop. We are baking them. So that's just another layer on top of if you got all the ingredients for this recipe expecting that you weren't gonna have to bake this item and you planned your day out so that you could just throw it together quickly because you thought, oh, no bake must be pretty quick, you're gonna be sorely disappointed whenever you read through the instructions and you bake stuff twice. It's not just a no bake, it's a twice bake. Your time, money, and then the food waste associated with sloppy, careless recipes, tangible problems. Why I care so much about giving you guys the tools to be able to suss out this sloppy, careless recipe for yourself. Working on the strawberry sauce. Cheesecake bites are still in the oven. The instructions say 1 pound of fresh strawberries, whole and sliced. So we're just gonna cut off the top. Sliced, they don't really say specifics, so they should have called out a specific size in order to give you the information you need in order to make the best strawberry sauce possible. Okay, the strawberry sauce is made. I'm going to let it cool off. I'm going to put this in a glass food storage container to let it cool. And then the cheesecake bites need to cool for an additional 20 minutes. It says, realistically, y'all, I'm probably going to have to finish this video another day. So you'll see like a third wardrobe change from me. And then if you guys really want, I can show you a version of this recipe that I think would actually match the photo a little bit better. Let me know in the comments how interested you are in seeing that. I was planning to link this recipe below in the description box. However, the longer time that I spent on this site, like checking the instructions and sharing it with you all, I got so many pop-up ads and some suspicious stuff, so I'm not gonna link it. I just don't want like this suspicious of a website linked to this video. So the link actually won't be down below because I could not in good conscience actually link this. Now we're gonna just go down to assembling the final product. Once the cheesecake bites and strawberry topping are completely cooled, spoon a generous amount of strawberry topping onto each cheesecake bite. Okay, again, back to that picture. What of that description matches the photo in any way? At no point did we inject any strawberry filling into the middle of the cheesecake. A generous amount of strawberry filling, that feels like a garnish of strawberry more than a generous amount. There isn't like much of like a jam or jelly or sauce with those strawberries, and it doesn't say that you like pick the strawberry out of the sauce around it. Now, tips for success. Don't overmix. Overmixing the batter can lead to cracks in your cheesecakes. Mix until just combined. So based off of, again, the ingredients and ratios and stuff, and the fact that you are baking these tiny little cheesecake bites, you're not gonna have to worry about overmixing. If you are making a large cheesecake, then we want to talk a little bit more about managing the potential for baking cracks into the cheesecake. But a tiny little format, it's going to be in the oven like 15 to 20 minutes. You don't have to worry about it. The cooling process that they share here is that you turn off the oven, but then you leave these little cheesecake bites in the oven with the door open. And it says the cooling process is crucial to prevent cracks. Again, these are so tiny. The majority of the cracking issue that you see in cheesecake has to do with how quickly heat is like introduced to the batter or removed from the batter. And whenever you have these tiny little guys, it's fine. The rate at which it's going to be losing the temperature at sitting on your counter at room temperature is not going to cause cracking. If there is cracking, it's probably because you used way too hot of an oven. Variations, different fruit toppings. Get creative with your toppings. Try blueberries, raspberries, or even a chocolate ganache. So chocolate isn't fruit, first of all. Second of all, these are the 3 least creative ideas possible. They sound delicious, but just not really creative. Now we have a second really long, multi-paragraph description that feels like a robot really studying a human personality and trying to replicate it while not actually being able to, like build a personal writing voice. It does say, like, once you've made them, please come back and share your reviews in the comments, or your comments in the reviews. And then there's nowhere for anybody to add any comments on this site. Again, could be like kind of a simple oversight, but these things are adding up. These inconsistencies that a person spending any amount of time or thought putting this together, they're going to quickly catch that and delete it or change the verbiage, or maybe add the comment section to the page. So now here we have the pretty formatted recipe, like something that you might print or post onto Pinterest, which this is how I got to this site. I found this site through Pinterest. So a little disappointing in some ways. We're seeing more and more AI slop on Pinterest also. It's across all of the platforms. I do feel like historically Pinterest has been a really beautiful space for artists, so to me it's especially disappointing to see more AI slop on Pinterest, but 'tis the world we are in now, and let's just make fun of it to try to cope. Okay, now frequently asked questions. Here are some more. How do I ensure the bread stays moist? It says use fresh, ripe ingredients and avoid overmixing the batter. Pretty much nothing about this question or answer makes sense to me. There's no bread. I don't know. This is just this makes no sense. Can I substitute ingredients? Yes, you can substitute similar ingredients while maintaining the basic ratios for best results. Super helpful. What are the similar ingredients? What would you recommend someone be able to substitute? Using buttermilk instead of sour cream, as long as I maintain the same basic ratio, will be good? Will be good? Okay. What if somebody else thinks that strawberry jam is close enough to fresh strawberries? What if somebody thinks that freeze-dried strawberries are close enough to real strawberries? Are those similar ingredients similar enough? And are they going to function well enough? Next question, how long does this bread keep? Store tightly wrapped at room temperature for 2 to 3 days or refrigerate for up to a week. Do not leave your cheesecake at room temperature for 2 to 3 days and then eat it. Never, ever, ever, please don't leave cheesecake at room temperature for 3 days and then eat it unless you want to get food poisoning. What if I don't have all the spices? It says you can adjust spices to taste or substitute with similar warming spices. There is no cinnamon or nutmeg or cardamom or cloves or ginger or nutmeg or anything. I think I might have said nutmeg twice, whatever. There aren't any baking spices in here. So, whatever. Can I freeze this bread? Yes, wrap individual slices and freeze for up to 3 months. Cool. These aren't sliced. I mean, they're pretty tiny. I guess you could try to slice them, but they aren't sliced. So, most of all of this, you could chalk up to a recipe writer, developer, blogger person who is not putting any care into their recipe. Maybe they're just really bad at what they do. And so maybe a real person could have done this, but with the amount of problems and the level of egregiousness of the problems, AI. Also, to me, the photo is pretty easy to tell that it's AI generated. Okay, so Let's get a little bit out of the weeds here. Let's talk about the overall themes that I see, why I would never recommend that you cook something based off of this recipe or really anything on this website. Number one, the title of the product that you're making does not match the photo or the preparation instructions. This says strawberry cheesecake bites, no-bake dessert. And then it shows you photos of what would be fried little balls, and in the preparation instructions it says to bake this dessert. So these three things do not match up. In reading through the description, you couldn't picture anyone you've ever met actually saying this to you. Like, it does not have a human's voice behind it. As you scroll down to the frequently asked questions on the bottom, that is the most glaring, like, these questions and answers make absolutely no sense for this product. Let's be real. There are thousands and thousands of free recipes out there, so if you see, something that seems questionable, like, you can pretty easily click away and find something else that does not have such a flagrant problem to it. I also do think that in the notes it is interesting that they specifically say, like, if you make this, let me know let me know your review in the comments below, and there's no comment section for anybody to add any comments on. And lastly, the overall formatting, like just the visual formatting on the page, looks very similar to like Gemini AI's output of things. As expected, these do not come out of the, yeah, not coming out. So I'm gonna take a little paring knife and counterintuitively, don't put the sharpest side against your pan because you don't really want metal hitting and scraping against metal like that. Put the not as sharp side against it, and you will just run it right around the outside of the little things, and then they will pop out like this. So next we'll put the strawberry sauce on top. So it's time to add the strawberry sauce onto the cheesecake bites, and I am kind of trying to drain some of the strawberry off because the sauce is not as thick as the photo made it seem. So I am doing my best to try to pick out what would look the most like the photo. It's not easy though. So there you go. Our no-bake strawberry cheesecake bites that were baked twice look nothing like the photo included in the recipe, and also took significantly more prep time than what the recipe prepares you for. Thank you so much, Chefeteers. If you notice AI recipes out in the wild, please share them with me so that I can find the next one to roast. And until next time, I hope that you have amazing culinary adventures in your future, and all of the recipes that you find online actually turn out really well, and that you make yourself some amazingly delicious meals.